that we first sat down with Minister Savannah Maziya, and let's be honest, each conversation since has carried a headline of its own. In September 2024, it was the UAE partnership, it was artificial intelligence as well as STEM, an ambitious sketch of Eswatini's digital future, if you like. But then January 2025, it was the Google partnership. We signaled the Eswatini's digital ambitions that were no longer just regional but global. And then May 21st this year, we saw the Government in Your Hand initiative, which was launched, taking government services out of the queue and putting them in the citizens' pocket. Now, today, September 2025, 3 months on from May, the app is being updated, services are being expanded, and at the Eswatini International Trade Fest Pavilion number 5, there is an ICT hub. The vision that is on full display, app developments, digital infrastructure, cybersecurity, tech innovation, as well as digital literacy. And then here, of course, we have heard that there's agencies that are rallying this partnership from the World Bank to the UAE, showcasing the fundamentals of transformation, including a coding training school. But alongside all these milestones will always be more questions. And yes, we certainly have some more for Minister Savannah, who is here in studio this morning with me. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning and happy Spring Day.
Yeah, indeed. Look, sometimes I laud the job of a minister, because I was just thinking yesterday that every time you hit a milestone, it seems as though there isn't time for celebrations because there's something else in the pipeline. You are in a public service delivery kind of office. The public is always looking for something. And I wonder how we are able to balance all those things, just to always be on, gear mode. Let's shift to the next gear. How do you do that?
Well, you have to, right? There's a lot to achieve, a lot to be done. So I think that's just part of the job. You have to be able to move from the one thing to the next thing. And you can't sit down and really savor some of the successes. You just have to keep moving because the country needs so much and people need so much. And so you have to keep going. Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like if there's one ministry that has maintained that kind of momentum and hasn't fizzled, it is the ICT ministry, because as I premise this conversation, I'm literally counting all the things that we've spoken about in theory and then we've seen them come into undertaking. And as we speak about that now, we want to speak about Government in Your Hand.
Yeah.
That has taken center stage at the Trade Fair Pavilion number 5, the ICT Hub. Let's talk about that. What is happening there?
Gosh, I want everyone to come to the pavilion.
Right.
We're doing some amazing things this year. You're right, AI is really the lead. It's the center stage for our Trade Fair Pavilion this year. Robotics. We're going to have a museum as well that's filled by AI of our history. We're going to be looking at things like what is cybersecurity actually in practicality.
Right.
So people really understand it, because I think sometimes it's a bit of a nebulous issue. People don't really understand what it's about. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things. We also have classes where we're going to be able to have anybody attend for free, and we can be able to help people code. People have AI classes, cybersecurity classes, as well as a variety of other tech classes. So it's very exciting. We're also going to see the expertise of our local people, our local young people in app applications, and the ones that we've actually also put in Government in Your Hand. So it's going to be, a very exciting time for young people and everybody to see what we do with ICT, to see what we can get to, and to see the developments we've done in just a year.
Absolutely, and shout out to our production team, because we can see the visuals. I think they took some time. I didn't even know that they took time to go there and have these visuals for us to appreciate what people can see when they get there. Yeah. But I know that you are big on convenience, and I suppose that was the crux of your anecdotal experience with Government in Your Hand.
Correct.
It's not necessarily the download, so to speak. Yes, that can be a measure of something, but the time saved, the money that is saved, and the problem that is solved at the end of the day. What is the one indicator that you look forward to know that indeed this is working, this Government in Your Hand?
Uptake is one.
Right.
Right, but the experience is more.
Absolutely.
Right, I'd love to be able to see more people experience the solution, experience the convenience, and understand the impact it has in their lives. Yeah. So that they can become the marketers of this particular experience. Because really, in the end, we'd like to be able to have more people uptake, but the experience is more important.
100%.
Yeah.
I want us to talk about the youth participation, because something really interesting happened when you shared your anecdotal experience, that you really felt like old people are being stripped of their dignity when they're queuing in the lines. But something about the youth. And President Boko from Botswana said something really interesting. When he assumed office, he said, we realized that we saw a very minimal youth participation on the polls. But we also realized that perhaps that was a vote of no confidence from the youth, because they don't want to go to the polls. They want to vote from the tip of their fingertips, you know, from their phones. How much of this do you believe is going to give the youth the momentum, as well as the vitality, as well as the agility that they have to say, we are this generation?
Right. Correct. So he, you know, he's right. We can't, as Africans, say that, especially in Eswatini, we have a youth component of 70%,
right,
and not participate, and not let them participate, and not let them be able to be curators of their own future. So that's a really important thing that we must always, you know, adopt. I always get frustrated sometimes. I feel that people my age like to always harken back and say, you know, in my day. Well, it's not your day, actually. It's somebody else's day. You had yours. And so please let others be able to participate. So for me, from day one, I think when we first met and even other interviews, I've always said, if we've got 70% of the population being 35 and younger, then let's focus on them having a greater future. It's not at the exclusion of others. You know, I focus on women as well. It's not at the exclusion of others. It's just ensuring that what we do is future-proofing the country. Right. 100%. So if we're going to do that, then let's ensure that the youth are part of that proposition.
It's almost, you know, unbelievable to even fathom the demographic dividend of Eswatini. You speak of 70% being 35 and younger, but it's almost the whole of Africa as well. Just we are a very young continent. But I want to ask this question beyond the trade fair. What are we really looking at? The ICT Hub showcase, of course, is there. The people at home will still ask what happens when the lights go off after the trade fair. And obviously, we've been following the Udacity program. Just yesterday, I think I bumped into another post that you had an engagement with the people from India. And again, new commitments have been made. So I suppose there's answers to this question. What happens when the lights go off at the ICT?
You know, I look at the trade fair as the place you go to look at the dreams, to look at the future and what's potentially possible for you.
Right.
And that's practical. Right, so we look at it as something that people can actually see, because sometimes, you know, when I first came into this job and I was talking about the things we want to do, I would meet people saying that's never going to happen in Eswatini. People will never allow you to make that happen. And look at where we are a year later. A lot has happened. So when you go to the trade fair, we're wanting for you to see the practicality, you know, what's up there in the world? What are people really doing? So that when you are now being part of the capacity building, you've now seen what can be done. And now when you go into the classes, whatever we're giving you, the free classes, you're able to understand what you can achieve yourself. So beyond the trade fair for us is just showing you the practicality of the dream. Because, you know, young people have to dream. They've got to be able to see what the future looks like and what's possible. So we're giving them that at the trade fair. So we're very, very comfortable in knowing that what they'll see there is what we're going to give them as far as capacity building is concerned. Yeah,
it's quite interesting. You mentioned that there was a bit of angst with you know, you articulating your aspirations and your ambitions, but we've come to realize that that has become quite the reality, because we are sort of suffering the sins of you know, other people, so to speak. It has been said with patriarchy, women are suffering the sins of patriarchy of our fathers. But us failing with the leadership apparatus, so to speak, before, shouldn't inform how we go ahead as we go forward. And I love the fact that you do say that you just want to prove them otherwise through the job, through the work.
Well, I love people who underestimate me.
Right.
I've been a woman all my life, I've been black all my life, and I've been an African all my life. So in every point of life, I've always been underestimated, which is great, because you can work in the shadows and make things happen. So now we're showing that actually the things we said we would do, we would do. Because the most important thing you can be with as a human being is to be impeccable with your word. When you can deliver it, do so if you can't, tell them why, and tell them when you can. So that's what we're doing.
And as we speak about that, and I want to coin it the trust contract. When you build that contract, I mean, that trust contract with people, one of the many questions that have, you know, we've seen culminate is the question around the safety of data. And I remember that became prevalent when there was the Google partnership. And I think I saw you assuring the nation that, you know, we shouldn't worry. If anything, this is Google. This should be the least people we're worried about. You know, I want you to speak to that, because there are still questions around that.
I mean, listen, I think I can understand sometimes when people sometimes don't trust government. I think sometimes governments do say things they're not going to do. But I think this government is saying a lot that it is doing. And so what we're trying to prove is that when we say something, we do it, number one. And that's important to have that trust dividend.
Right.
But I also think that it's unfortunate how the Google thing has been dealt with, because the whole reason of bringing these global hyperscalers is, first of all, because they were promised, if you remember when we met in Ngwenyama in Mandulo, we'll bring in these really global hyperscalers. So we said that and we've done that.
Right.
But we also bring them for a second reason, so that when our information is worked on and is secured by such hyperscalers who have so much to lose, then we have first grade, 7-star tightness on our information. So if you're going to do something, always try and do it with the best in the world, not the mediocre people, not the ones who are trying to get to it, the ones who really have the experience and as much to lose. And when you're going to do something, do it with someone as much to lose as you have. And so that's why we go with the hyperscalers. And we'll bring in more hyperscalers, by the way. Google is just the first of many that we're going to bring in. Yes.
I mean, of course, you've even brought in the UAE.
Yes.
And I suppose they are, rallying partners at the trade fair now. And perhaps let's speak to that partnership, because that is an ongoing partnership. We've seen your trips there, some of which people started asking, what is she doing there? What is she doing there? And then it culminated to something that they're like, okay, we understand now.
Yes.
That is exactly what you're speaking to. I'll prove to them, and then they'll understand.
Yeah.
This partnership with the UAE, let's speak to that.
The partnership is very important. We as government sign a lot of MOUs with many countries, and I'm a lover of us doing that. But I also don't want to sign 1,000 MOUs and then you don't do anything.
Of course.
Because what you do with the country you're signing with is you minimize the trust and you minimize the relationship. So if you're going to sign an MOU, then activate it and make it beneficial for both parties. So we've signed an MOU with the UAE, and they're right. We were going there a lot because we also had to be able to sell ourselves as a country and sell out that we're really serious. Because just like other countries like the UAE were getting tired of signing MOUs, and then they say, well, we signed an MOU, and then we see another minister 5 years later, and another minister 5 years later.
Yeah.
What's the point? We had to be able to say, we're going to make it happen. And so we have. So we're very excited about that relationship, and we continue to want to be able to ensure that we are giving each other, both ourselves as Eswatini and them as the UAE, the benefit of this MOU.
I see your passion in education. Perhaps you don't go out there and say, I'm passionate about education, but you just do the thing. Let's talk about Udacity. 300,000 Eswatini sounds ambitious. And I understand why some people may not even fathom that. But when you speak about the timeline, it then makes sense, right? What is this Udacity coding program? And what is in it for Eswatini?
It's a foundational program that really introduces Eswatini to the world of technology.
Right.
That's so important for foundational building. Let me tell you something. Whether we care to understand it or not, we're going into that world. We're in that world already. So if we want to be able to be part of that world, it's almost the same thing as someone saying, I'm never going to use a cell phone. I don't know care how it works. Well, guess what? We're now using cell phones. They're part of our lives. We can't imagine life without cell phones. A time is coming when we're not going to be able to imagine life without AI, without robotics, without all these things. So the world of coding is a baseline for everybody to be able to be a part of, so that when it comes, you're able to participate and use it.
Steve Jobs was recently, Bill Gates was recently asked in another interview about, AI and the people that are still reluctant to integrate with AI. And he said, you almost sounded stupid, because this is like when there was the computer boom. And there were people who were saying, I'm not with this bandwagon of computers. Well, it is indispensable.
Yeah.
It is here now, and you'll be left out.
Correct.
And you will bear the brunt if you don't catch up.
Yeah. It's true. Let's
talk about the urban and rural divide. I think one thing that is mostly highlighted right now is that all Tinkhundla centers in Eswatini, have Wi-Fi. But there's more that can be done, of course, and that's exactly why I've said I can never wish to be a minister, because you achieve this, there's something else that has to be done. The risk with digital rollouts is that Mbabane moves ahead, but Spokosini stays behind. What's the plan to ensure that this is not a reality here?
The two things that are really of passion to me, or maybe three things. One is young people. Two is women. And thirdly is people from underserved areas, mostly the rural areas. So what you'll find, for example, is in our strategy as the ministry, there's a huge focus in being inclusive, especially people in the rural areas. So you'll find that, for example, we've been able to install microwaves throughout the country. You'll find that we are looking mainly at rural schools, even when we're training teachers. So 75% of the people that we're training as teachers are coming from the rural areas. So that really is an area of importance for us, to ensure that those in the rural areas and underserved areas have just the same opportunity. And that's why we have online training. And that's why we're trying to find out how we can be able to have Wi-Fi in Tingunta, so that people can be able to go to those areas and then do the coding classes. And that's why we want to be able to ensure that we put in the microwave, so that people have strong, reliable internet in those areas. And we're going to put in more. I mean, we're going to come in with satellites. There's a lot that we want to do so that the rural areas are not left behind, so that people have the same chance. Because you shouldn't be unable to access the future just because of geographic positioning.
Yeah.
That's just not fair.
And I want us to zoom in more on these lens of getting people out of the margins. Because too often, as people who are a little more privileged in towns, we feel like we are, underserved ourselves, so to speak, but it's very relative. The people, Labasis Pokosini, who are in Dubazi, in the Cicerone region, why is it so important, if we zoom in to that lens, that we all move as a unit as we progress and develop, and why that is beneficial economically as well?
Because it's only right and only fair, but also there's a Bill Gates somewhere there.
Right.
There's an Elon Musk somewhere there. There's an Oprah Winfrey somewhere there. So why starve ourselves as a country of an opportunity because people have different geography? If you don't access and give those people access, the country is starved of major opportunities. Don't think that only people in the cities dream big. Don't think that capacity and know-how only resides in the urban areas. It certainly does not. So I think it's only fair to ourselves as a country and to those individuals. It's not their fault that they're underserved, but certainly we should do whatever we can to open up opportunities for them.
I really love the outlook of why starve ourselves of this potential that is there.
It's not smart.
Yeah, instead of just looking at it that we are starving the person that has the potential,
we're starving the country.
We're starving the country,
That's it.
all of us.
Yeah.
That is profound. Let's talk about the partners that are in play. Of course, you have MTN, you have the World Bank, the UAE. All of these are heavyweights, if you like, but partnerships can cut both ways, if you really look into it. What do they bring that government couldn't do alone?
Well, listen, it's no secret that as ICT, as the ministry, we've got a very, very small budget. I mean, when I first came in, I was very shocked that this is a budget for a ministry that's supposed to be leading us into the future. So these relationships then become even more important, because they then expand to areas where we couldn't get to because of the financial limitations. So I talk about MTN, for example. We work with them in a variety of areas, but also they've got the academy. So we're able to work with them to get and see how people can access their academy. We also work with them to see how we can work together on the data issue, by the way. I mean, it's a continuous conversation, the issue of the affordability of data. And they've been really understanding and participating in that. And then you look at areas like the UAE. They've helped us train teachers. They've helped us to be able to come up with this coding platform. And so there are many things we're going to be able to do with them. Besides that, in fact, there's other things that we do with them that actually don't even make the press, because we're looking at training the police. We've trained a variety of other people in the cybersecurity space. And also we're going to work with them in the issue of legislation, so that they can help us to be able to see how we can legislate in the AI robotics, because we don't have currently that expertise in the country. So that's also an area we're going to work with them. And then, of course, you look at the Googles of the world, who are the hyperscalers, and working with us in cybersecurity, but also in adding more services in government in your hand. Because government in your hand will have government services from different ministries, but also non-governmental services.
Right.
For example, one of the things we're looking at is analysis of weather. That's not really a government issue, but we do believe that our farmers need that information, right? And the issue of looking at attending schools, how do you attend schools, and looking at extracurricular, those are not necessarily government, but we want to be able to add those into the mix. And livestock, tracking your livestock, a cow or whatever, that's not necessarily a government issue, but our people need that. So why don't we add that into the mix.
The biggest crisis in the Kingdom of Eswatini and certainly Africa is the unemployment crisis. It's a real one. It's a very thorny one. And when we drill into it, we see a low-hanging fruit with ICT, particularly coding. And I'm happy that you have programs that are speaking to that. Can you speak to the opportunities that will come in terms of employment creation and job creation? I suppose even remote jobs, because I think that is the one area that really allows that, this ICT space. When we have so many people learning about coding, what are some of the job or employment opportunities that can come for our youth that is so unemployed?
The jobs of today are changing.
Right.
That's something we cannot walk away from. So what do we do, again, to future-proof ourselves and ensure that we're able to access these jobs? We build capacity for the youth and anybody else who's interested. And that then means that the coding is the fundamental start, right? That will lead you into whether it's AI, robotics, or whatever it is you want to do, space travel, space training. That becomes the creation of the future, so that the young people are not only looking to government for jobs, but looking to be able to be the creators of jobs themselves, but also can work remotely. I mean, the program that we talked about, you and I, when I came here in September, that we're still working on, is the issue of remote work. But we can't get remote work when we don't have the skills base.
Yeah.
So part of that skills-based creation is to be able to fill into those gaps of the global remote work, but also even local
very
work.
competitive too,
yes,
that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I just came from India. Those guys are, are cooking with gasoline. I'm telling you, they're hard to trot. But also when we're looking to attract ICT investors into the country, they want the capacity. So this whole capacity building is an area that not only looks at people being able to create jobs, it looks at people being able to have remote work whilst it's still in Eswatini, but also to be able to fit into the investor profile that is required when investors come to town in the ICT space and in any other space, because ICT will be involved even in non-ICT environments.
I love the term you have used, future-proofing ourselves going forward. I wonder, though, how can we future-proof ourselves in a way that we allow the locals here to be able to create firms, to be able to create solutions, and we're not edged out by, foreign firms, in the future? Because as we start, of course, we will need private investment, that's for sure.
When I do my mentoring courses, I always tell people, when you are starting out, always know that you are competing with 8 billion people in a business. So when you're coming up with an app solution or anything else, understand that you're competing with those people. But also, on the flip side of that coin, you have that much of a market of 8 billion people. So when you look at a solution, don't just look at a solution that will only serve us as a Maswati. Of course, we're the primary source. And that's why, for example, at RSTP, we are continuously looking for young people to come and show us their developments. I'm always searching out for people to be able to add that on. But look at yourself and say, I'm doing this coding because I'm going to come up with a solution that will be a solution for 8 billion people in the world, and potentially 10 billion people as time goes by. So that's what I look at and say, don't only look at the fact that you're competing with them. Compete with them so that you're the best, but also know that they're also your market.
I'm being notified through my earcom that we have run out of time, but I do want to ask you in 100 days, and by the way, 100 days is December.
Okay.
So we'll be wrapping up the year of 2025. If we sit here again in December 2025, what's the one milestone you will want citizens to judge you on?
Oh my God, there are many milestones. First of all, there's the milestone of policy. We're going to have the critical infrastructure bill that's going to go through Parliament, as well as the cybersecurity regulations. So that's really one milestone. And in the capacity building, it's the coders, as well as the relationship we've just forged with India, which is why I went to India. I don't like to go to countries unless I know that we can be able to have an impactful relationship.
Right.
So that's also very important. On the issue of getting government in your hand, there'll be more products on there, and we'll also be looking at adding more products in other areas. And so I think there's a lot that we can be grateful for, and I think when I'm judged in 100 days, that'd be one of the things that I think we should be judged on. But most importantly, to ensure that we're working on closing other areas that we can't discuss right now because we're just working on them. So in those 100 days, a lot more will have happened.
You can whisper those ones. Perhaps
yes, just between you and I, not the whole country.
Okay, fantastic. And I'll be sure to tell my viewers.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly
Thanks so much for your time, and all the best with these promises that you're giving us. If there's one thing I can tell you is that I'm confident. There's no consternation on my end because you've delivered on everything else that